Greetings, friends. It's the YCO Nomad with YCO Resiliency. On YCO Resiliency tonight, we're going to discuss... I can't be that serious, folks, but what we're having is Old Smoky peanut butter whiskey. As always. So, something came across the news feed today, and I was actually wondering, do I really want to do a news feed, or how do I want to handle this? And this is more of a discussion. And let's talk about bugging out. We're going to bug out. We're going to live off grid. That's the prepper fantasy. I can be the hero in my own prepper novel if I just bug out. Well, in the news, and this happened a while ago. This happened, what was it? July of 2020. July of 2022. So the Vance family decided to disconnect from the world in July of 2022. They were motivated and driven by fear. The fear of the COVID, the fear of, let's see, I'm trying to think here. I'm trying to pull up something really quick. I know I'm not supposed to do that. There's something I'm looking for. There it is. So they were driven by that fear. And that fear was COVID. The constant thing that we were all told to be afraid of. You know, Charlie Victor 19, the cerveza flu, because I've already stated the unspoken virus. I might get a ding and they might block this video because the YouTube algorithms does not like you using that one bit. So we will refer to this as we will use this as, what do they say? It is now known as the cerveza flu. So, it just goes to show that when watching a 24-hour news cycle, that you could be driven to do things that you're not prepared for. And I get it, the fantasy of bugging out. I've even talked about we're going to bug out, but I have a plan. I have a location. Though you may not know about it, those that are connected within my group and stuff like that, we have a location. We have a plan. And we have a red line drawn in the sand of when we have to leave said area. Do we stay put? Do we shelter within? Or do we get out? And clearly this family did not, because as it says here, I'm going to read it, not the whole thing, but I'm going to read some of this. The cost of COVID fear. Colorado family trying to live off-grid in wilderness dies of malnutrition and hypothermia. Okay, key things here. Malnutrition, which means they did not have enough food. They obviously weren't hunting and fishing for their food. They were eating what they brought up, and they probably ran out of food, most likely. Living off the grid or trying to reenact some Bear Grylls survival fantasy out of the wilderness is not something to be taken lightly or romanticized. It requires experience, knowledge, and the ability to adapt and when to call it quits. Without proper supplies, shelter, and preparation, even the most well-intentioned attempts can turn tragic, as was the case for Rebecca Vance, her 14-year-old son, and her sister Christine Vance. Their story serves as a warning for those who think living off-grid in the wilderness is as simple as they make it out to be on TV. And that's some really key points here. TV, Bear Grylls, and Survivor Man, all this, they have a camera crew, they have a safety, they have a medic team. In a real situation, and this is where it comes into the lone wolf. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do it myself. I'm the lone wolf. One sprained ankle, you're dead. You're an epic loot drop, okay? If you're being pursued by people, when are you going to sleep? When are you going to get warmth? When are you going to build a shelter? These are things that you need to get through and prevent through your prepper fantasy mindset. Can someone do it alone? Sure. Is the chances of you actually living and surviving? Negative. Most of us are way too accustomed to the finer things in life, such as electricity, AC, heat, on-demand washing, on-demand water, hot water for that instance. Who here has gone down to a stream in the middle of November and taken a bath? Do you want to? No, you might stay dirty and deal with that and just kind of, scrub. Or you may be like, hey, it's the Polar Bear Club. I'm jumping in and, it's a short stack of buttons, guys. You know what I'm talking about. Poor little turtle, scared. So, but they decided to disconnect from the world, motivated by media-driven fears stemming from the global pervasive flu pandemic. They sought refuge in the rugged terrains of the Colorado Rockies. A year later, they were discovered dead in those same mountains. All three died of malnutrition and hypothermia, according to autopsy reports. There was a campground that was closed due to inaccessibility, and it sits around 13,266 foot Henry Mountain in the southern edge of the Fossil Ridge Wilderness. Despite being convinced that they were saving themselves from the pervasive flu by fleeing into the by fleeing into the wilderness, words, I know how to speak them. The family set up elevation approximately 9,500 feet. For anyone familiar with the reason, this height brings its own set of challenges. Yes, it does. I've lived in Colorado. In Colorado. I've been to the Rockies. The family went missing around October of 2022. They were discovered in July. Spring thaw. So, this is it's a tragic story, and my heart goes out. My deepest condolences goes out to the Vance family, because this was a tragedy that could have been avoided from many points, many sides. Number one, the media and their relentless, terrifying everyone. If you don't put a diaper on your face, the pervasive flu is going to get you in your sleep, and just, you have to stay out of the sun. Don't do anything. Stay in your homes. Don't leave. It's for your own good. And that's a bad thing. People have 24 hours news, and they get sucked into that. And they get just sucked in. And it affects them. And the biggest problem with that is, if we look at Dietrich Bonhoeffer, this gentleman wrote a theory on stupidity back in the 1930s. And one of his comments about stupidity was, stupidity is a more dangerous enemy of the good than evil. And it's true. Stupidity is more dangerous than it's more dangerous than evil. Evil we can fight, stupidity we cannot. And as Dietrich Bonhoeffer stated, against stupidity we have no defense, neither protest nor force can touch it. Reasoning is of no use. Facts that contradict personal prejudice can just simply be disbelieved. Indeed, the fool can counter by criticizing them, and if they are undeniable, they can just be pushed aside as trivial exceptions. So the fool, as distinct from the scoundrel, is completely self-satisfied. In fact, they can easily become dangerous, as it does not take much to make them aggressive. Think about that. For that reason, greater caution is called for than when dealing with a malice one. Never again will we try to persuade the stupid person with reason, for it is senseless and dangerous. Dietrich Bonhoeffer. After writing those words down, Bonhoeffer was actually soon arrested, and he died 2 years later, executed in a concentration camp by Nazi henchmen. What seems like to be a different era, we still face that every day. Stupidity is a dangerous foe, and there's no defense against it. Think back to the cerveza flu. Think back on how we're dealing with weather change. Something to think about. And also, the biggest thing taken from this tragedy that fell upon this family is you have to have a plan. You have to know what you're doing. You have to practice your skills. You need to be practicing these things and doing these skills. Survival, hunting, fishing, trapping, foraging. You need to be doing these with your tribe, with your mutual assistance group. Sitting around watching a YouTube video of Grand Thumb for shooting or Dave Canterbury for survival skills. If you're not out there doing them, you're not going to survive. You're going to be a statistic. You're going to be an epic loot drop. So I encourage you, with your tribes, with your mags, you need to set up dates and events that you do throughout the year. We can assume that most likely if the shit hits the fan and we have to bug out, it's not going to be in perfect weather. It might be in the dead of winter. It might be while someone is pregnant. You need to train these things, and you need to be ready for any type of situation. You could be sleeping in the middle of the night and all of a sudden you got to go, got to leave now. It's a thunderstorm it's a hurricane. Well, I'm going to sleep through the hurricane. Well, the problem is there's a fire that just started. It's ripping through the neighborhood. Even though there's a hurricane, the hurricane's pushing the fire. It's something's, oh, the rain will put it out. It's a gas fire, whatever. It's Greek fire. The more water that's added to it, the more flame. Just because you're in the middle of one disaster does not mean there's not going to be another disaster. You need to practice your drills. You need to practice your skills. It is to the utmost importance that you actually train and you do things. And you do things together as a group. Because honestly, if you can't get along with Steve on Tuesday, you're not going to get along with Steve during Doomsday. That's plain and simple. You got to see if you guys can get along and live together, especially if you're going to be in community. That is extremely important to that whole thing. How to do another one. That's good stuff. Oh, so peanut butter. But with that, thank you again for watching the YCO Resiliency channel. And be sure to check out our affiliates, not sponsors. I keep getting corrected. They're not sponsors. They don't pay you. Our affiliates. And now, with all the problems that's happening with supply lines and the potential World War III with the Ukraine and Russia and China and Africa and all that stuff that's going on in the world, supply chains may be interrupted. So now's the time that you might want to start thinking about your medical. And I urge you, check out Jace Case. Use the link. Get $10 off your order. You can get your antibiotics. You can get your yearly prescription. You can get your prescriptions filled for a full year from them. Yes, it's going to cost money. It's out of pocket. But guess what? Your health is more important than that small fee. And now they have ivermectin. That's right. You can get ivermectin from Jace Case. Be sure to use the discount code and the link in the description of my videos to take you to that, and use YCO10 for the $10 off through Jace Case. Thank you again. Watch your six. I'm the YCO Nomad. Peace out, everybody.